So hi, I am Sue Hollis. I'm the family specialist from New Hampshire. And I developed this a couple of years ago. We had another one of these sessions and families were curious about what to do when you travel with your child who may have multi-handicaps or combined vision and hearing loss or other medical needs. And so I developed this document, which is available on the NEC website. So if you go into the NEC website and under the search engine, you can just put summer travel in and you're able to get it right up. So it's separated into traveling by air, traveling by bus or train, if you're going to go to theme parks, and just some things to be aware of. Michelle, did you have any specific questions about traveling, or did you have any trips that you're planning?
No, but we would like to take one and we've never done it. So that's the big one.
All right. So if you're going to travel, it's important to contact the airline before your trip. The disability support desk can assist you with setting up gate escorts if you need that. Give you a travel pass. Everybody should be under the same pass so you don't get separated in security. So sometimes when you go through security, they'll only let one person go with the person who's handicapped and they get separated, but you can go to the disability support desk and get a pass so the whole family goes together so you don't get separated. The other thing, which is not on here, which I also suggest, is becoming TCA preferred. It costs about $80 a person. It lasts about 5 years. But once you do that and you get TSA preferred, you go to a much shorter line. You don't have to take your shoes off. You don't have to take your belt off. You don't have to take anything out of your backpack. It's much quicker to go through. I got it from my sister. It really saves time and a lot of stress to do that. Know the layout of the airport, where the restaurants, baggage claim is, things like that. Investigate if you need to change terminals or if you have connecting flights and how to get to those terminals. Plan extra time between connecting flights. I've noticed lately that the flights are more and more delayed. So I do not suggest booking something that has a short layover because you're probably going to miss it. Keep all your information, such as a letter from your doctor stating the disability and boarding passes, easily accessible to you. If you're traveling with a guide or a support animal, make sure the airport is notified of this before you go. Pack extra food, snacks, and water for both your family and the guide and support animal. It is suggested to use backpacks as carry-on so your hands are free. Easily tag or identify your bags that are checked so they are easily identifiable at baggage claim. Contact your airline and TSA website for any other information. Check local requirements of the cities you are visiting for vaccine documentation, mask and COVID testing requirements. Share your itinerary with others. Traveling by bus or train, call customer service when purchasing your tickets and click on disability assistance. Talk to the driver or the conductor. They're great at helping you out. When taking the train, the departure is announced over the loudspeaker only a few minutes before the departure of the train. So be prepared which track the train is leaving from and what time. Be there early. Be aware of the stop so you can plan easily when it's time to depart the train or the bus. So, and if you're going to go to theme parks, if you're planning to visit a theme park, contact the disability services before you go to see how they will be able to accommodate you. For large theme parks such as Disney, check out these links for accommodations. These will not work for me because this is a PDF. But again, if you go to the NEC website and put in summer travel, you'll be able to access those links. Guest services for hearing loss at Disney. Guest services for vision loss at Disney. If you're staying local and visiting local parks and playgrounds, Inclusive play with Miracle Playgroup. A lot of these materials are available at Legacy Playground in Nashua, New Hampshire. So when I did this talk before, it was for New Hampshire families. You might find similar playgrounds near you. Have fun and be prepared and flexible. So if you're going camping, again, contact the site, see what accommodations are available, make sure there's restrooms that are handicap accessible, that kind of thing.
I have a question. I do.
Good.
Restaurants, how do we know if they're handicap accessible? I mean, I find even when I look on like their websites, it's not always easy to tell if a restaurant is or isn't accessible.
My suggestion would be to call the restaurant and talk to the staff.
Okay, that makes
And
sense.
and explain, you know, I have a wheelchair this size. Am I going to be able to get into a stall in your bathroom?
Yeah.
And also, when you look at accessibility in Europe or other countries, their idea of accessibility is very different than our idea of accessibility. So there's a hotel in Kensington that says it's handicap accessible as long as you can walk up 3 stairs, go down this really long hall, and walk down 4 stairs to get to your room. And you still have to go over a tub to get into the shower. So it's, you know, call ahead to see exactly how it's laid out. And is this just for going out to dinner, like when you go on vacation, or in your area that you live?
Well, I honestly, in my mind, that's what it was going far away. But then I thought, no, actually, because even if I go, the other side of the state, I'm like, I don't know. So yeah, I think that's a general good guideline right there.
Yeah. Any other questions? I know that there's a mom who has several kids with challenges, and they go to Disney like twice a year. And, you know, 2 of her children are in wheelchairs, feeding tubes, you know, extensive medical issues, and they have a great time. You know, they have found it to be very accommodating.
So I have a question about whether, like, in the New England area, are there favorite places that you found that are just sort of easy, closer by? Like Storyland, Santa's Village,
Mhm.
even, other places in New England, whether it's beaches or what's been your experience?
So I have not been to Santa's Village, but we do go to Story uh, Time Village, and that is fun, and that is totally accessible. And they have nice big restrooms that it's easy to negotiate in. Another place I like to go locally is Charming Fair Farm, which is in Candia, New Hampshire. And we've done some outings there. And you know, they have a train you can ride, and it's like a petting zoo, and it's pretty fun. There's also Parley Farm in Tingsboro that I've taken Jack to, and he's able to manage well there. Legacy Playground in Nashua is a handicap accessible playground. I think there's another one up like in the North Country of New Hampshire. I'm not sure where it is. Isn't there one in Maine? I think there's one in Maine. Accessible playground. I'm not sure where it is. I want to say it's near Portland.
I think there are several along the coast there in Maine, and there's some really good bike trails. And Maine is also great with their state and national parks, as all of them are, in terms of having people that'll come and provide equipment.
Mm.
Michelle, do you know any places in Vermont?
No, that's just kind of what I was thinking about. I know they have a mostly done accessible playground in Burlington, and I can't remember the park's name right now. But no, I mean, that's been, I think, a big issue for us is understanding how or where is even if you just kind of Google like, handicap pass or something like that. I don't come up with the type of search results I think it will. So even sometimes just finding stuff to do in our own state, I think can be really tough for our family.
Mhm. We had some trail rails. Those are fun to do biking or even just walking. They're completely straight. There's no hills. So it's easy to access. What's the name of the one in Salem that we've gone to?
That's the
Trail-
Wyndham Trail, and we're hoping to do
Wyndham
that in May. We've had a recent request. And we may actually have a few breakouts with some other groups that are affiliated with deafblind. So that would be great. The charge group, I think, has their walk and roll. I believe it's May 8th or 18th, but anyway, we'll
I,
be sending something out about that.
they did. I actually got an invite already. Let me check my Facebook
Oh,
page.
good, good, good.
That place has not been determined yet, but
Is
kind
the
of.
date there?
So May 18th, Saturday, May 18th at 12 p.m. 5th annual Walk and Roll for Charge. Walk and Roll for Charge is a chance for all of us to join together, be active, and support our charge community. Your donation will help fund the foundation's family assistance.
So it might be a nice time for us to kind of join forces on that date.
Yeah, I
And
was planning on going, so
yeah, so if we
that
did
would
it
be
at the
fun.
Wyndham Trail, it's a great location to do the walk and roll because it's the trails,
Yeah.
very easily, very accessible, super easy to drive to. Um, so that, and then, maybe we could also find some other sites to highlight, but we would definitely have
Right,
hope for
because
more messages.
they have not, yeah, so it says time and location to be determined, even though they said 12. But that might be a good place to do that.
Michelle, I also know that there's a few beaches in Massachusetts, and I know for sure York Beach in Maine that have the beach wheelchairs available for free.
Oh, nice.
And they're terrific. So we've used them for my daughter. And they're just available kind of first come, first serve. I haven't ever seen them be all used all at once. And they're the ones with the really big tires. They go in the water. So you don't like once you transfer into that wheelchair, you can use it for the day. You can take it directly into the water. It goes on the beach. And you don't have to request it in advance or anything like that. And there's no fee for it. So that's something. And I put in the chat for if you decide to travel by plane or train. We've used both of those services, both TSA Cares and the Red Cap through Amtrak, and they've been really helpful in, especially if you have to bring medical equipment with you that isn't checked, but is obviously in addition to your carry-on baggage. They'll help kind of guide through there. And they also help facilitate if your child or person that you're with isn't able to sort of independently go through the scanner or go through security, they really help facilitate that as well. So they've been very helpful with that.
Is that something we can add to this document since it's part of our documents at NEC?
Absolutely. And Michelle, I'm looking at the Vermont, the best wheelchair accessible trails around Vermont, and interestingly enough, they're almost all in the northeast, way up north, but not in the northwest. There's not a lot, believe it or not, around Burlington. There's some, but I was surprised to see that they're mostly up trails. There's a lot of bike trails, walking trails, running trails up in that northeast area of Vermont, northwest, sorry. There's a little bit of a gap there in services.
Sometimes it seems like it's almost like when they build something new, they're more able to do that than when they try to kind of retrofit an old trail. Um, so that's why I think sometimes, like I know at least in my area, there's not always accessible trails where you think that there might be. And you had asked earlier about kind of restaurants and things like that. What I've found is reading the reviews is really helpful. Like, I don't care, I'm not reading them necessarily for kind of the food or the service. I'm reading to see, my husband's wheelchair got stuck in the door, or they didn't tell us there were 3 stairs, or the ramp is broken. Um, Definitely read the reviews online, I think can be helpful. Just if you're looking for a specific place. And thinking about where they are. So I know, for example, we go to Freeport, and some of the restaurants on the main street are okay, but the ones on the side street are often down in the lower section of a building. So there's stairs. And they're not usually accessible, but it depends too. And I think, Sue, you had said earlier, when you're looking accessibility, like being clear about what your accessibility is, or when you're talking to them, because we have also found similar where the trail or the place will say it's accessible, but they don't mean fully like wheelchair accessible, right? They mean like as long as you can walk a few steps, or as long as, so it depends on what your particular accessibility needs are.
I also wanted to mention for people from New Hampshire listening in, there is a trail that is handicap accessible, and also for people with visual impairments. It's called the All Persons Trail. It's in Manchester. It opened last year on Earth Day. And it's a universally accessible trail, aims to break down barriers for the outdoors. And it's at Cedar Swamp Preserve in Manchester. And I've done that with Jack. It's a really beautiful trail, very wide, flat. There's a little bit of up and down hills, but totally accessible.
And for people who are looking for it, there's a few places that offer Braille menus if if you're looking for that sort of accessibility. So you can usually ask at a restaurant if they offer a Braille menu. Some of them have large print menus. A very few of them also have picture-based menus. Kind of few and far between, but it doesn't hurt to ask, and then they know that that's something people might want. There are Braille trails. In Massachusetts, I know there's a few of them. Basically, it's a regular accessible trail, and then along the way, there's descriptions that are in Braille of either the nature around it or wildlife or something like that. So that's another accessibility piece. And then in terms of the theme parks and things, most of the major theme parks, I don't know necessarily New England, except for I live near Six Flags. They do have it, but most of the major theme parks like Disney, Universal, Six Flags, Hershey Park, like those ones where you might be traveling to, they all offer some kind of disability access pass. I would say visit their website because their rules are all very, very different. But their goal is to, support being able to access whichever rides themselves are accessible, and to help the family kind of know what's available and where are the accessible restrooms and that sort of thing. And they also can provide information on, do they have, any kind of listening devices? Do they have anything in Braille? Do they have, tactile experiences, that sort of thing. So those can be helpful. And the same is also true of some of the museums and that sort of thing. Even smaller local museums often have hours where it's sensory friendly, which can be good for kids with vision and hearing issues just because they keep it a little quieter and things as well. Our local hockey team is actually doing a sensory friendly hockey night which is the first time I've heard about that. So cross my fingers, we're hoping to try. And they put a really good description on their website that said there's no air horn, there's no goal horn. They have a quiet room where kids or young people who need a break can go, and they're going to supply some fidget toys. There's just a bunch of really nice materials that they're making available to families. So I thought that was really nice as well.
Another thing to remember, if you're traveling next year and you're flying, everybody in the family needs to have a real ID.
Underage people too, small people as well.
I'm not sure about that.
Because I mean, I have one because I travel for Hands and Voices, but all of a sudden I went, oh, what do the kids need that too?
Yeah, that's a good, that's something we should look into. I'm not sure if it's 16 and under that you don't have to. I'm not sure how that works.
We'll have Damari update some of these and put some additional info in here, and maybe look at each state and add accessible trails, museums, any other.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, any other locations you guys can think of to ask her to research for us?
The Children's Museum in Portsmouth is always a good place to go. That's
Yeah.
accessible. The Discovery Museum, though it's not completely accessible, which is in Acton.
Yeah, they're doing an evening for families of children who are deaf, hard of hearing, or deaf blind. That's coming up in March. I believe it's the 23rd.
I think so.
Yeah.
Michelle, I did just look and it says TSA does not require children under 18 to provide identification, but their traveling companion needs accessible or acceptable identification. So you would need it, but your child would not.
Also beaches. We've had a lot of requests from families about beaches and lakes that are accessible in terms of the big tube things. What are those called, Brenda? That you can
The
go out
beach
on.
wheelchairs.
The
The
beach wheelchairs or the, yeah.
I know
There's
that
also a lot of,
Maine's great about that.
Maine's great about that. York Beach was terrific, and we did both of the beaches, Long and Short Sands, had the wheelchairs, and Long Sands Beach actually has been completely remodeled. Well, I don't know now. They had a storm, and I'm not sure what it looks like. But prior to the storm, they had a ramp and everything, so it was really nice. I also know Acadia National Park up in Maine. They're the only national park that has carriage roads, and so those are all like gravel roads. Most people use them for biking, but they're great for wheelchairs as well. So if you're a family that likes to be outdoors, but obviously it's not going to be hiking trails, they're good for kids who might use canes, kids who might use wheelchairs, even kids who have just more difficulty with mobility overall, and kind of rock scrambling isn't part of what they're able to do. It's really nice, and there's a lot of them that are really very, very accessible.
Closer to home, Packmanadnock, which is a small mountain in the Monadnock region, has a road that goes up, just like Mount Washington does.
Mm-hmm.
So we usually hike up it and then walk down the road. So it's paved. So that's easy for people to use. But I don't know if I want to push a wheelchair up it.
Yeah, we choose the flatter version. We do a lot of research on the easy rail or the easy carriage roads, because some of them we discovered have an incline. I am not quite good at pushing the wheelchair up the incline. So, and I think the other thing too is thinking about if you are a family who needs like lodging somewhere, and you might need access to a lot of outlets for medical equipment. Again, using checking on the websites, calling to see if the hotel itself, can give you some disability information, but a lot of the reviews will also say, mostly because most people are looking and they'll say, oh, I couldn't charge my phone and my laptop at the same time.
Mhm.
But if you're looking to plug in a, G-tube pump or anything like that, you'd also want to know
Mhm.
if they have enough in whatever lodging you might be thinking about.
That's a good idea.
Hey, any other suggestions, thought, questions? Sort of trains, planes, and automobile. That should be our theme.
I think that would be a good
Yes.
one.
Oh, the other thing I was going to mention too is check your local library, because many of them have free passes to
Mhm.
the museums and, even movies. If you want to go to a movie, most of the movies are quite accessible, and if you can go on a quiet afternoon, sometimes that gives you a little bit of sort of personal space where you don't have to be so on edge with a lot of people around. But the libraries really, I think, are underutilized, I was told, in terms of those free passes.
Yeah, a couple other like easy vacation things. Also, if you're a family who, at least in Massachusetts, because that's what I know. If you're a family in Massachusetts who is utilizing WIC or EBT, they are often providing free entry to some of the museums and like I know the aquarium has some days where it's free, the art museum, so a lot of just free entry for the family. So that's something to look into. And then even like simple places. So if you go to a bowling alley, a lot of the bowling alleys now have the accessible ramps. So if your child's in a wheelchair and they just put the ramp right in front of the bowling alley and they push the ball down, you can line it up. They have bumpers in the alleyways, so so it won't go in the gutter. Um, and those are easy, and they're most of the ones I've been to recently, they're built in, so you're not really, you don't even necessarily have to ask, like things are just there, which is really nice. So if you're looking for something closer to home and not sure if that's accessible, those are really good things to look into as well.
Hey, anything else, Sue? Oops, you're on mute.
No, that's all I have right now.
Okay. I guess with that, we'll call it adieu and quiet evening. Thanks for joining us, and we'll make sure the recording is accessible on our website. So thanks for joining us, Michelle. As always, if you have any suggestions in terms of getting information out there on our website to families, we're always open for suggestions. Thanks, everybody. Call it a night and stay warm.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Good to
It's
see
great.
everyone.